Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the new series that we are going to be having with programming. So in this case, we're going to be just using programming in a different way in that we're going to be just using a flowchart. We're going to explain what a flowcharts are, what their usage is, and all that stuff. But in general, the main concept is going to be to introduce what a programming is and how interesting that's going to be. This is from the Practical IT. You can learn more about it from the practicalit.com. So the first one is, what is programming? Probably you might have already heard it, and you might have already associated by the term programming that you might be thinking people just typing on their keyboard and then gazing on their screen and stuff, which is not wrong, but there is more that we're going to learn on that one. And there are things that might not be directly related to the programming as well. So the very first one is programming is all about problem solving. Programming, problem solving, problem solving, programming. That is the first thing that we have to know. The second one is it might not be related to a computer at all. So if it is a problem, we are a human being. We have been on Earth like for a long, long period of time before the advent of the computer. And we have been solving like a bunch of problems throughout the years. And then we haven't solved them only through the computer, but through thinking. We have to think, oh, we have this problem. How am I going to solve it? And then that's how we have been doing that one. So the way of solving a problem might not be directly related to a computer. The other one is, again, it is going to be all about the solution. So we have a problem, we want to think, and that is a part of like involving a programming, and then to solve the problem and then coming up with a solution at the end. And we can do this one, especially these days, in a much easier way. Either we can do it using a diagram or a text. We're going to be just using a diagram, and then that's where the flowchart would come into a picture. So in summary, like programming is all about providing a solution to a problem. So let's see some solutions that we might not think they are directly related to programming, but we use them probably day in, day out. The first one is an ATM. We know what the problem is behind that one. We want to access our money regardless of the time, and we think about it a little bit as a human being, and we come up with a machine that can do, whether it is on Saturday or Sunday or after hours or anything of that kind, that's going to be just working on the ATM. And we have been using like the laundry machines to clean our clothes. And then that is going to be a problem that has been solved. And probably you might not think about like the car is associated with the problem. But if you think about it, car was coming to the picture because we have a solution, we have a problem that we have to solve, that is to get from point A to point B relatively in a safe and faster way. And hence we come up with like the car. So you might not directly think about like the problem solution kind of relation between when you are thinking of that one. But if you are thinking of like any tool that is surrounding you, and then if you think about it, that tool is actually solving some kind of a problem. And then that is where we're going to be just focusing more, again, problem solving, and then coming up with a solution. And you might be wondering like why you should be a programmer. And of course, by now you might have got a little bit of like an idea in that as long as there is a problem, then we, the human beings, are going to be interested to get how to get a solution for it. So one way to do that one is going to just to go through like that's the programming, or to be a programmer, or to have like the tools which would allow us to see what the problem is out there and then to come up with a solution. And mostly we might be associated with that of like the computer. Of course, like at the end of the day, we'll be converting that one, and then the computer would be doing that problem for us. But we, the human beings, have to tell to the computer on how to solve the problem. And that's where the programming would come into a picture. And it helps to be a problem solver, just all the time. Then every handyman, every professional has something to provide. And to be just one of them is going to be just a rewarding one. And just to be being a human being by itself, we are born as a programmer, and then it's going to be just a matter of like making it more workable with the way that we want it to work for us. And we're going to be just using some tools for the programming purpose. And for our case, we're going to be just using Flowchart, which are very easy to pick up. They are easier and they are very visual to follow along, and then they are easy to follow, as I've said. And they're not going to need any technical knowledge or precursor for this one. Anyone who can look at it, they can understand it. And then they are explainable, they are self-explanatory, they're explanatory in most of the cases. So let's see a very simple example of like finding a definition of like any word. You might be having like here and there like a bunch of word you're going to be just getting, and then someone might be wondering and say, how would I know if I'm given any new word? How am I going to know like the definition of it, the definition of like that word? And then you can write it like on how they can find that word, or you can show them in, you know, just in a pictorial way. So let's do it like in a much simpler pictorial way. So in this case, finding a definition, the first one you're going to tell them is going to just go to the library, which is written on this one. And then you're going to get them to, you're going to put it like on your instruction to get a dictionary, and then to search or to look up for that word from that given dictionary. And then that's going to be the final part of it, which is to get the definition. In this particular case, you might be wondering, well, this one is something that I know, then I don't need like a flowchart. But this is a very simple representation. And then you can see that even if it's going to be just a very complex kind of problem, then we can actually put it in a pictorial way so that anyone can understand how to proceed from there. But in our case, we're going to be just using what we call the flowchart, which are even easier to write on. And then they have like the a text inside them, and that's going to make them like much more easier to understand where the problem is arising and where we're going to be just providing a solution, and how we're going to test if the solution actually is working or not. So flowchart, we're going to be following a couple of shapes on this one. So the first one is like an elliptical shape. That is, every flowchart is going to be just starting and ending with an ellipse. Then whenever there is a process, it could be like the calculations or any kinds of arrangement that we have to do in order to, or you know, like in order to perform the solution, if there is any process, then we're going to have it in the rectangle. If we're going to be just accepting any input, or if we have to show back some kind of output or a text or any kind of like the sound, or, you know, just anything that's going to be just guiding the user, then in that case, we're going to be just using the input or output that's going to be just with parallelogram. Whenever there is a decision that we have to make, like if you're going to do this, do that. If not, just wait. Or if this kind of condition is satisfied, then append this thing. So for all those kinds of like scenarios, that we're going to be just using what we call a decision, and that's going to be just performed using like the diamond or rhombus. And finally, we're going to be just showing using like the data flow. So this is going to be just an arrow that's going to be just showing where we're going to be just starting, where we're going next, and then anything in between are going to be just followed by a data flow, or that's going to be just simply an arrow. So as usual, the best thing to get something really on the master level is going to practice. So we're going to see like a couple of examples on this one, and we're going to leave this play chart, the flowchart channel as it is for this. So anything that we're going to be just adding with additional questions, additional problems, with their solutions, with their on how we have solved them, all of them are going to be just listed on that one. And you can tune into that. You can subscribe for it, and then you can, every time that you're going to be just getting, you'll be able to get a new one. So don't forget to do that. And with that, I'm going to push you to the next video. I'll see you next. And this is all about like the flowchart that we're having.